Linn, so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Who is Linn?
Oh, I mean, I would like to distinct between Linn as Linn Elisabet.
Let's start with this.
Yeah, and like me as Lee. So yeah, my name is Lee Linderson. My pronouns are they, them, and I do DJ and produce under Linn Elisabet. There used to be a time when those two were much more merged, but the past year they have gone to like separate but still parallel ways.
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
How came?
Well, I have my identity journey that I'm going through, and it's ever changing. And I thought for the longest time that I would never, want to change my name because I was given Linn Elisabet at birth. Mm-hmm. So when I chose the artist name, it was just my name.
Your name.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then, when I started out with the project, for sure, it was an important part of that development of exploring my identity. Mm-hmm. And it still is. It's just they need to live their own lives now. So then I became Lee.
Sweet. So music made you do it somehow.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was music, and also like the people I have met through music or through like the creative settings that I'm in that inspired me to change the narrative of my life somehow. And I don't know yet where it's going to end.
No one knows.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And now I'm also much more open to the fact that these things are fluid. And who knows like what's around the corner.
Sure. Who do you have in mind?
Who?
Who do you have in mind by like all these people that were into your path, came into your path and like made you evolve as a person, as an artist as well?
One of the most important people is my friend Ambrose, who is also an artist and a producer under Rå. And we made a record together on my label, Volchok Berlin. It was released in May last year. But we started talking a lot during the pandemic, actually. We got to know each other back in Stockholm. Mm-hmm. We're teaching together in a music production program. Mm-hmm. And we connected already then, but it wasn't until I moved and COVID came that we started like talking more privately.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was more a professional context that turned into a private one and then into music.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we just kept calling each other several times a week, and we could like speak for hours and hours, and shared a lot of common thoughts and feelings around these concepts. And so we grew out of these conversations and also eventually made the Act 777 record, The Hills We've Chosen, which is about all of those things that we were talking so intensely about throughout the years.
How would you describe it without telling too many details?
The concept?
Yeah. What makes it special?
It's special to me because it echoes me in a way that I felt I didn't access before in my personal life, in my musical life. But I can't say that it is special in comparison to something else, But for me, that's why
that was what I meant, like, because like I felt like in what you just said that it was like something that very, very personal that you put online, like more out, especially with your friends. Then it's like, it's even deeper, I think, when you work with friends. I mean, I see it with the project, it has a whole other impact because like the other people just like put so much energy and love and all their heart in it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, my music has certainly, and maybe that's also a reason why I chose to separate like my own persona and my artist persona. Because so intensely during a few years, my music was evolving around gender and identity and like how I could explore and grow in that through my musical practice. And it's still a central part of it, but I think I came to a point where I started feeling like I even studied my master's doing this, like music as gender affirming practice. And I came to a point where I needed to like keep some of that journey like to my own, you know, like I'm sitting here sharing it now, but the music in that context had served its purpose, and now the music needs to maybe predominantly serve another purpose for me.
Which is?
Right now, I'm working on a record which is centering itself around the concepts of, I mean, it's also related to the identity thing, of course, but like it evolves around concepts of not being afraid of your own power. I think power has been like a really charged word for me many years, or my whole life. Like the power is something ugly, and the power is something that you exercise over other people. And somehow the parts of me that I perceived as powerful were pushed aside because I felt like they were ugly in some way.
Why does this word has a negative sense to you?
I mean, I think it comes from the way you grow up when you're not like normatively compliant in certain regards, and how like the patriarchy exercises its power to make sure that you don't step out of line. Like people who are empowered are dangerous to that structure.
Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, like you also have the power to change things in a good way. This can be very positive as well.
Yeah, but I think that's like the narrative that I was fed in a way, or fed with, that that made me scared of the parts of myself that were powerful.
I see.
Because often also when I expressed those sides, it was sanctioned or punished.
How did you express it?
My power?
Yeah.
I mean, I feel I'm in it now when we're talking. I feel I'm in it when I stand on the stage and I play, and everything feels like I feel connected to the moment and the people, and like then we share that power, you know? Also, I mean, there are also more subtle things, like just walking down the street and feeling that you're yourself, you know? And you're taking up space, allowing yourself to take up space. That's power for me. Not being apologetic.
Yeah, like be yourself and also feeling fine about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. You use a lot of vocals like in the new tracks. Is that the power?
Yes. Yeah. The vocals are my inner power in a way, I think. It is something that I've been doing for a while, but they're coming forward more and more in my productions. I notice, like, I think the first record where you can hear my vocals are already in my first Planet Rhythm release, but you don't really hear them because they're like so soaked up in effects and reverb. And I recorded it with like my iPhone headset mic. It was a very spontaneous thing because I don't know how to play keys. So composing melodies for me, like I can't sit down and, just play it on the keyboard. So I started singing my melodies. But then I thought I would replace them with, a pad or something. But when I put some reverb on it, I was like, this sounds kind of cool. So I kept using them, and the more confident I felt about letting my own voice be heard, the more, like, the less abstract it has gotten, and the more clear it is that it is there, Yeah, and it gets also a more significant role in the arrangement and in the track, like it is the central feature of most of my tracks nowadays. So yeah, that is for sure a way for me to express my power.
What track do you have in mind right now that could represent the best what you just explained?
Of the ones that are currently released, I would say there are 2 tracks on my 4/7 release. it is in which I am reflected and feeding into each other. Like both of them are like 99% driven by the vocal.
Oh, okay.
And also like for me, the voice, I mean, it's like such an intimate instrument, and I still can't sing in front of other people. I grew up in choirs, so I was like so used to like being hidden in this collective or whatnot. Like it wasn't my voice, it was my voice as one with the others, you know? And then all of a sudden, like I'm gonna use my own voice, and it is the voice.
But you're evolving. This is why I see a lot of similitude is the right word, but what you said before about your voice being like in the back, and like right now it's evolving and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and like you evolving as a human person, and like to also sing more clearly, and like to constantly like your voice is a big thing in your music.
Yeah, for sure. And I can also notice, like, if we're going to talk about like what the type or what ways the voice kind of shows the way of how I am evolving as a person. Because I've also had a difficult relationship to my voice, whether I have liked its features, or if I felt like its features is representative of me as a person, and you know, but I feel the past year only that my vocal cords are much more relaxed, and my voice can do things that it couldn't do before. And I think that comes from like my body being at more physical ease nowadays than it used to be before. So in a way, the voice can really say a lot about, for me, how I am currently feeling, and even maybe before I have felt, you know, the emotion itself. I lost my voice once, like many years ago, and that's when I started realizing how that correlation kind of, how they interact with one another.
It's precious. I mean, it's amazing that you have a kind of such a connection between your body and like inner feeling that's studying like through the voice. Like it's a kind of, it's the power we were talking about.
Yeah, I think so. Sweet. Yeah, and that is like the tattoo, like what it signifies. Like it is that power, or a part of that power. That power has different shades, I guess, and different voices as well.
Embodiment.
Yeah. But it's like a part of that power, for sure.
Tell us about it. What's the tattoo today? Yeah. What brought you here?
Well, the original design was something I had drawn a few years ago. The inspiration for it kind of came from so my mother is a dancer. She used to host like classes and workshops in what she called dance meditation, or it's kind of improvisational dance. If I'm going to translate it to English, I don't know. And she had a logo herself for her could say business. I don't want to say business because it doesn't feel like a business, but the thing she was doing. She had a logo, and it was also an abstract body dancing and like stretching its arms. I really liked this one as a kid, and my mom also involved me in the dancing a lot. And this design that you developed from mine comes originally from her, and I think that connects a lot to like what we're doing with dance music also, like the role that the body plays in the creation of the moment of dance musical joy.
By producing it and everything, all the emotions that are in it when you produce, plus the moment when you play it, like where you have this connection with the crowd,
and like how that collective movement can bring us places we didn't expect.
Oh yes. Oh yes. What is your relationship to sound?
The way I relate to sound, it's like we already kind of touched upon it, I guess. It's like the way that it relates to the body, or the way that it becomes an extension of my body. So I have a classically trained background, and I was mainly then singing in choirs in like big reverberant churches, and also playing in orchestras. So I realized that, like, you know, I was used to experiencing like sound and musicking, or like expressing sound inside of it, like, you know, surrounded by other people, and also feeling like that becomes like a unison part with the body. And maybe that's also why dance music spoke so much to me, because I remember, like, when I started going out, I had also been attending at the time some meditation classes. And that type of meditation was like a lot related to listening, and to listening to others while they were talking. So we were practicing, like, when someone was talking, to pretend that you were like the radio or the speaker through which the sound of the person talking came through. So that more or less you would imagine like that you were saying it. And so when I went out dancing, I could like stand there and imagine that the sound that was coming through the speakers in the club was coming out of me. And then many years later, when I did my master's, I was lucky enough to find the work of Salome Vogelin. She also lives here in Berlin, and I'm pretty sure she's teaching at UDK. She wrote a book. It's called Possible and Impossible Worlds, I think. And there is a chapter about impossible bodies. And there she talks about how sound is an extension of your physical body. And there's also like, I mean, I was really fascinated and resonated by this concept, that I started doing some more research on it. And there's actually like real scientific research that points in the direction that like you can extend your cognition through both like tools that you're using when you're musicking, but also the sounds that you emit when you're musicking. And yeah, so that's like how I see the sound around me as an extended part of my body.
It's interesting that you use the word see and not hear.
Yeah.
We're kind of mixing senses here.
Yeah.
It happens on a dance floor as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, also the audiovisual aspect of any type of club or like sound installation or whatnot, like that's my favorite type of art to enjoy myself. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, no, I see the sound. I don't see colors like most people do, because I know that's like really common. But I see and I feel like textures and materials, and I can like, it's almost like I can see them like move in the periphery. And I like, okay, I see this sound with this material and this texture, and now I have to translate that when I compose. So comes with the timbre, with the effects that I'm choosing, the placement in the stereo field to get that feeling of that sound moving here, you know.
Wow. How would you ask this? Describe these different feelings between the different contexts you're evolving into in the studio, on different dance floors, on an open air, for example. You've played at the Pride in Milano.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, last weekend. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was amazing. And also, I really wanted to like give a shout out to the crew that hosted the parties, Disict. Really beautiful family of people and like dedicated dancers that like come back again and again. Like now I played 3 times for them.
Oh, sweet.
Or it was the first time was in spring, and then I did 2 gigs now last weekend. And there were so many faces that I just like kept seeing coming back, and now it feels like I'm starting to get to know them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Great. Any other anecdotes you would like to share?
No.
Let's start with Tommy.
Huh?
How did you meet Tommy?
Oh, Tommy. Well, I think he started following me on Facebook first, and I wrote him a message that he didn't reply to. I think till this day he hasn't seen the message. But then he started following me on Instagram. I think it was after I played at Hör, and I played one of his tracks, remixes. And I reached out again, and I was like, "Hey, good to see you here. I'm like really like what you're doing with the label and your music. I mean, like I've been following 4/7 since I started. It was the label that I wanted to release on, and I was very fascinated by, like, if we're talking about like placement of sound and textures and stuff, like the sound design of the music that is being released on 4/7 has definitely inspired me a lot in my work and the paths that I wanted to develop. So, and I just asked him like, hey, would you be interested in listening to some of my demos? And he said yes. So yeah, I sent some music and we released the record, and that was like huge milestone for me.
Good. How did that work? How was the collaboration, like the work together, the exchange?
Yeah, it was very different from when I've been working with other labels. And I really want to applaud Tommy for this, because I have received feedback before. Like some labels don't feedback at all, and some labels do. And I felt like he was doing it in a very like respectful manner, and also in a manner that challenged me to push my music forward. The tracks as I sent them, they were good, but like with that extra input and ear, I was able to take them like to a whole other level. And then also there were things that he was suggesting that I was like, no, that's not really my thing, you know? And he would just like, okay, then you don't do it. So that worked out really well. And then I just find it so beautiful with like the whole, like, yeah, way that he is working with the concept and the visual aspects of the label. And it's really a space that I'm feeling proud of being a part of.
It's a whole concept, like it's not only the audio part, but also the visual. Like it's the word branding doesn't sound positive, but like the whole thing, the label is...
It's a fantasy, like you create a fantasy that you want to materialize or communicate or like invite other people to partake in. That's how I'm trying to see it, like when I am doing my branding, like it is it's an invitation to a fantasy, and then people can take it if they want.
I like that. It's a very open way of saying like, hey, this is my work, this is what I do. Well, you're not talking about directly about your art, but like more in a nice way than, okay, this is more business or whatever. Like it's, I really like it.
Yeah.
What other artists from 4/7 inspired you?
I mean, VSK is like a house god of mine. I think he is amazing. Then like if we're going to talk about people who is inspiring me now, that also like more recently released on 4/7 is Quelza and Mystics, who I think are all like amazing producers. Flaminia also, and she's also using her voice, although in a bit different way than I do, but I find that super inspiring. So but there's not a single artist on 4/7 that I don't like. Like it's beautifully crafted music.
How would you describe with your own words what Tommy does with it for you to say this? It's kind of like road is not the right word, but like the identity of the label that he created. So that's
I don't know if that is like mine to say, but I can say what it means to me. or the interpretation that I did of, because I was also asked to engage in like when we did the press photos, I got to like choose my outfit and the styling, and I felt like I was kind of building an avatar for a video game or something. And I embraced that in the way that like, okay, this is his fantasy, and now I get to create like a role in his fantasy world. Who is that going to be?
How did that work for you?
I mean, it glued really well, and I had a lot of fun doing it. I always think it's a little bit scary to like do photo shoots and stuff. I've always had the same photographer for all my press photos since I started. So it was the first time in a while that someone else was taking the pictures. But I just tried to like focus on the playfulness of getting to partake in that fantasy, and it was a lot of fun.
Sounds good. This is what we see on the 47 2.0 channel, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I really like the photos. Like, he really has a strong identity of what he likes, what he wants to do, and it's quality. Like, you know what he does. I really respect that. Yeah,
but also giving space for us to be us, like in that context.
That's a good balance. Yeah, it's important.
Because I've had that issue before where I've felt that people have requested things of me that are not representative of what I do or who I am, and like that's a dangerous game to play, because then you start realizing like, okay, these people are not that interested in the music, they are interested in the brand. And now I'm not talking about the fantasy, like I'm talking about the brand. And I think especially nowadays it is really easy for us who in one way or another identify as queer to end up in situations where people take advantage of that because it is sellable. And that is one of the things that makes me most frustrated in the scene right now.
And not only in the scene, like it goes also into big enterprises. Like we hear about the queer washing since a few years. Yeah. 1st of June, all the logos change.
Of course. But that's something that I kind of like, when I bought into the queer package, I already knew that was a thing. Like, okay, there is going to be 1 week of the month where McDonald's likes us. Not that I care, but I've entered the scene feeling that it was a safe space for me to be who I was and to evolve into who I am today. But only the past few years, I have started feeling that it is not that safe in that sense anymore. Like, you have to be very conscious about what people you surround yourself with so that they don't capitalize on your identity. And sometimes you don't notice until it's too late.
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah. I mean,
no, let's not talk about that. Okay. No.
Okay, no problem. What about the good parts of it? What is the best thing that happened to you while entering the community?
The community of techno, or the community of queer, or both?
It's quite close nowadays.
They are much intertwined in many ways. Like, one thing that comes to my mind now is, and I was talking to a friend about this the other day, was the collective I was part of in Stockholm before I moved to Berlin. It was called Drömfakulteten, and it means the Institution of Dreams in Swedish. I met them also through this music production course where I met Ambrose. And they had like a little studio complex, I guess, in the basement, and pretty central location in Stockholm. And that was also like in a bit, or in a way related to this like concept of a fantasy, because to get in there, you had to go through a door which was maybe like a trash room or something. Like, there were trash bins and bikes, and at the back of that room there was a door, another door, and you would just think that it's like a storage facility, or I don't know, like a gasterme or something behind it, but there was actually like this vibrant studio space.
Magical space.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And we were all like female or transgender or non-binary people. So it was also like very safe from like as a producer, technology is really charged with like straight male heteronormative, like, it's very associated to the patriarchy. So becoming a part of that space eventually was really important for me in my confidence of navigating technology and using technology to express myself. And it's one of the sweetest memories I have of like becoming integrated in the scene.
When was that? To talk about time?
Yeah, I think I got the space in like the end of 2017. I was there for a year and then I moved here.
Okay.
So I shared a room with 2 other people, and a lot of beautiful moments with the rest. I think we were 11 at some point when I was there. Yeah. We did like
exchange. No?
Yeah. And we did parties for our friends, like in weird little venues. We did soldering evenings on the Thursdays and like drinking wine and soldering synthesizers, and something I miss a lot actually.
You don't have this here?
I mean, I really feel like I have a lovely network here, and that I've managed to connect with people that I could never have imagined that I would connect with, but I don't really have, and I think that has mainly to do with the fact that we don't have a physical space, There was something special about having this space to gather in, and that was also the reason why Drömfakulteten eventually ended, because the lease ended, or they were going to renovate the space and they offered us to stay, but it was going to cost like 10 times more.
Of course.
So, and then it was decided that like, if there is no space, then there is only a brand. And we don't want to be a brand, so we will put it to rest.
Is it on standby or is it done?
I don't know. I mean, I am not the one to decide to pick it up, because it was not I who founded it. It was not I who led it. So I don't know what might happen sometime in the future, but at the time it felt like everyone was ready to move on in a way, even though it was really, really sad.
Are you still in touch with this community?
Yeah, I am. And I'm doing, like, for some of them, I'm still doing some mastering.
Cool.
Yeah. So we're still in touch.
Okay.
Sure.
Nice. Who do you have in mind right now? I see you smile, like, who is it?
Yeah. I'm thinking about Katja. She was it's hard to say the leader because it sounds so like hierarchical, but she was the mother, of the house. And it was also through her that I got into it. And she taught me a lot of fuck you. She has, like, her power came a lot from just not giving a shit. And that's something that I needed in my life, that I always needed in my life. So it's funny that we're talking about her now, because it also struck me, like, when I played in Milano, I closed the club night with a track that she sent to me, and that, like, reminds me a lot of...
About her?
Of her, yeah. And, like...
What's the name?
Okay, so actually, normally I find it a little bit... I would not name my own tracks after narcotics, but this track is called Cocaine.
And that's from you then?
No, it's not my track. Oh my God. And I was like, I love this track so much. And it's just, like, not me to like play tracks where there's a vocal that's like, hey, cocaine, you know, it's not me. But this track is so good. And so I dropped it for the first time in many years, and it just felt so right. And she was like there in my heart.
Oh, sweet.
When I did it.
Did it work?
Yes, it did.
Of course.
It did.
Great.
Now, I don't remember the name of the producer, so I can't cred them, but...
we will try to find it.
Yeah.
Or if anyone knows it, in the comments, please.
Yes.
You've mentioned that you work as in a mastering studio.
Yeah.
Who? What? Where?
Tell us. So I'm the studio manager of Analog Cut Mastering. It's here in the area. I work with the guy who is running the studio is Marco Pellegrino, and I worked there since October. Mm-hmm. So yeah, soon it's a year. And I'm really enjoying it. Like, the job market is pretty tough now, especially like after COVID. Mm-hmm. And I graduated from my master's last summer. So I remember I was a little bit worried, like, okay, mm-hmm. what's going to happen now? And like, how am I going to move forward? And but then this opportunity showed up, and I couldn't be happier.
Awesome. Yeah. So what came before? Like, you started to produce and to play, and then you went into mastering.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, like, the music has always, of course, like been a part of my life. First as a musician, mm-hmm. like with the classical schooling, and then I mean, back then I didn't really have the confidence, I guess, in my own expression. So instead of like all my mates in school, they wanted to become like rock stars and stuff, and I started working like on the business side. So I studied music business for 2 years, and I was like consulting for record labels and PR agencies and such in Stockholm. But that was on the indie pop side, yeah. So a little bit more what you would hear on the radio, kind of music.
So this is, could you bring some things that you learned into our industry?
For sure. I mean, I think a good advantage for me is that I understand like how mundane or like boring this might sound. Like, I understand the stream of money, like where money comes from and how to collect it. And regardless of if we want it or not, money is like significant in the access that we have to like, be able to buy gear, or just like the fact that like working in the creative industries like kind of requires you to work for little to no money for many years before you can sustain yourself. Mm-hmm. I mean, I couldn't do it up until like now that I graduated. So yeah, it took me, I think, 6-7 years to be able to pay my rent with music.
But now you do it.
Yeah.
That's great.
Not only from my own project, it's also like from mastering and from teaching, which I also do. But everything I do is music related. Yeah, and I'm very passionate about all the jobs that I have. So I'm very thankful that this is possible now. Mm-hmm. So I think like that is a huge advantage for me. And it was also much easier for me to start the label, mm-hmm. like to start Acts of Rebellion, because I already knew how to run a small record label.
Okay.
And like how it works with like ISRC codes, and, all of that stuff. So yeah.
Did you start to play or produce at first?
So back when I was studying music business, mm-hmm. I was also working with a music business newsletter, mm-hmm. and I got the opportunity to interview a guy called Anders Vervius, who was also the founder of Docklands. And Docklands was like infamous club in the 80s, 90s, like techno club. It was, I'm not going to go into the whole history of it, but it is important for my background as well that like Sweden is very strict when it comes to like alcohol regulations and opening hours, and Docklands was part of like a political movement that pushed for freedom when it came to like accessibility of like dancing and going out. So I was very excited to get to sit down and talk to him. And at the end of the interview, he told me like, hey, we're having a party this weekend. Do you want to come? And I was like, yes, of course, I want to come. And so this party was like in a abandoned building somewhere, you know, in the middle of nowhere. You didn't know the address until like an hour before you were supposed to go there, and it was sent via email, and you walk around like in a weird industrial area and don't really know where you're gonna go, but then you hear the bass and you're like, okay, party's on.
Sweet.
And I enter like the doors, like I'm getting goosebumps now that I'm talking about this actually. I enter the doors, and I remember like there was some kind of like camouflage net and like red lights and the music. And I was just so consumed by the whole fantasy that was being created in that space. And I also got to dance the whole night. Like we were there for like, I think 18 hours.
Whoa. That's not only a night.
Yeah, I got to dance a whole night without like dudes being creepy and disrupting my mode. And I got to be in my body also for the first time in a long while. Back then I hadn't, like, I knew I was queer, but I didn't know that there was an alternative to my gender identity then, like, or I had started touching upon it, but it wasn't, you know, yeah. So I was really disconnected from my body for the longest time. And the dancing definitely helped me to like find back to my body. So that same night I was like, okay, I want to get involved, and somehow that space behind the decks seemed very tempting because then you can facilitate
absolutely
that experience for someone else. Yeah. So yeah, I did a financial plan for my first setup, and I presented it to my father. And I was like, hey, I need this. Can I borrow some money and pay it off like this?
He said yes.
He said yes. It was, yeah, he was super supportive. And it's awesome. It's actually funny because like when I was a kid, I remember like I was sitting in the car with him and he asked me what I wanted to become when I grew up. And I said I wanted to become a music producer. Like I think it was 6 or 7. And then I think, and he made that one of those comments that grown-ups do, that they don't understand like what it means to a child. Sorry, Dad, I love you. I know you support me now. But then he said something like, oh, but that's hard to earn money from. So I strayed for a while and started imagining a life where I would do other things. But like now he's the most supportive person I have around. Like I think,
must be very proud.
Yeah. I mean, I think he believes more in me than I do sometimes, which is really beautiful.
It's beautiful. So, it is.
Yeah. And yeah, he also named me after his favorite stereo brand, so I know he's a fan of music in general.
I know his daughter is a producer. That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you, really.
Yeah.
What is your mom thinking about this?
I mean, she has bought a few of my records, but she has not yet gotten to enjoy me doing it like live, playing. But who knows, maybe one day I can bring it to her. Yeah.
Certainly. I wanted to ask, could you communicate what you've just said to this guy who brought you to this venue back in the days, that this changed your life?
Yeah, I mean, I have told him.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I can be told again. Like, it was definitely, what do you call it? Like a parting of ways. My life could have developed very differently than it did. So for that, I am like eternally thankful.
Lee, what advice would you like to give the younger generation, or that you would have liked to know before or a few years earlier?
I mean, I could make a whole podcast just about that, I guess.
So chapter 2.
Yeah. No, but I don't know. This is also so personal, like what experiences or like parts of yourself that you need to work on that you like come in to the industry with. For me, the biggest struggles have had to do with like my authority as a creator and my integrity as like a non-male artist. And I wish I had someone to tell me earlier that I get to do this my way. Like, I don't have to think that I am at mercy of other people because, okay, someone gets pissed with you, but there are so many wonderful people in this scene that you can work with. Like, okay, sure, if you burn like 1,000 bridges, you're going to have a problem. But if people are messing with your integrity or with your creativity, then burn it. Like,
fuck them.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
But that's like, I wish I had burned a few more bridges.
Yeah, that's good. I do agree 1,000% to that. Would you take a kind of apprentice somehow?
Yeah.
Like show the way, or like apprentice is not the right word, but kind of mentor young people. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I am teaching in music production, not as much now as I did before. But yeah, I feel definitely like when I'm doing that, I get really involved with the people that I teach. Like almost like, yeah, you get personally involved. You can't avoid that. And actually, that is like a good thing to mention now, because it is an upcoming project that I'm going to be involved with. It's the Subverted collective here in Berlin. We're like going to do a workshop series and for producers. There's going to be kind of like a mentorship program this fall, or end of summer, early fall. So if anyone is interested, can check it out.
I'm gonna put some link in the description.
I hope the applications are still open then. Somehow. If not, maybe they're gonna do it again. I hope
we'll
so.
Make something happen.
Yeah,
definitely.
But we do. I've been doing a couple of workshops with Subverted before, so it's worth checking them out, even though the application for this one might be over, because there will be more opportunities. So yeah.
And one last question. What would you tell your younger self when you discovered, okay, this is the direction I want to go in? If you had the younger Lee in front of you.
It's a good question. I think it has to do also with like the broader concept of voice, like believe that your voice matters. Believe that your voice carries something that is important to other people. And like, if it is not important for others, then like, okay, it's important for you. And there is nothing more powerful than daring to express that fully.